All right, everyone. Review Realm here. We made it to the finish line. Last review of 2020. Happy holidays, everybody.
This is another one that we are going back on. This one came out in end of September 25th.
Yep.
This is a band that I've been listening to for quite a few years now, and this is an album I felt that was very necessary to cover if you're not familiar with them already.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I know you had recommended this one. Yeah, very interesting choice. So the one we're talking about today is the 8th studio album from the German progressive metal band The Ocean, also known as The Ocean Collective. Album number 8, which is Phanerozoic 2, Mesozoic, Cenozoic.
If you go back to all their albums, they all have very intricate names like this. The album that got me into them is Pelagial, and this one follows a similar trend, it looks like, where the album is almost split into 2 parts, where the first 2 songs cover the Mesozoic era, and then the remaining of the album is the Cenozoic era.
Yeah, this is an interesting concept. So I'm assuming, part 2, so I'm assuming with part 1. Part 1 looks like it covered the Paleozoic era. So this one covers the Mesozoic and the Cenozoic. So the Mesozoic era being the age of the dinosaurs. So like the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. And then the Cenozoic is the age of the mammals, pretty much everything that came after the dinosaurs. I like this concept. I had thought about it a lot going into the album here. You know, I like that they put a spin on it, kind of. Obviously, these are times when humanity didn't exist yet. Obviously the lyrics and everything, you know, are more like human perspective, but that's a given. So like, but as I was listening to the album, I was trying to get in my mindset, like I was like, honestly, like picture myself like if I was watching like Walking with Dinosaurs or like something like that. I was trying to have that like in my head as I was listening to the album, like stuff like that.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about this album, something I try to look for with music right now, is just something that gets me into that's very ambient, something that gets me into a feel, a mood. And this album, and especially a lot of post-rock, post-metal, has this ambient sound. Especially kicking off the opening track of Triassic, I think it has a very smooth entrance, intro, and then the lyrics kick in, which is, I think, a very catchy opening. Goes right into Jurassic, which was the first single, longest song on the album, which is 13 and a half minutes. A lot of cool movements here, a lot of stuff that it's almost like a feeling rather than just like music in the background. There's something about this album where you feel like you're in an environment.
Yeah, what's interesting with this album is like I look at the track list, it looks like the 2 first songs relating to the Mesozoic era, but those are the longest songs on the album too. So like by the track list itself, you're almost misled. Like it looks like most of the focus is on the Cenozoic era. I think just as much is equally put into Jurassic, Cretaceous, and also Triassic. You'll be surprised about the influences I was kind of reminded of as I was listening to it. With Triassic, for example, like that bass line, I really thought of like Tool, and that obviously them being a progressive band, maybe that's kind of where I got that idea from. Another thing you'll be surprised with that I thought for this album is, actually, I hear a lot of, I don't mean this in a negative way either, it almost reminded me of how Gojira sounded on Mag. But like I said, that's not in a bad way. Just like the sound of it, really. I mean, because there's still stuff I like on that album, but the way that the Ocean sounds kind of reminded me of them. Like, I don't know if it's just both like European bands or what. I know they're from different countries, but I really thought of them as I was listening to this album.
Yeah, I can see that. The Ocean for me, I can see Tool. At times, you can hear a little bit of, when the Deftones get their ambient sound, the ambient heavy sound. You can hear a little bit of that. You get a good happy medium with this album. You do get some very heavy shit. You get some very melodic moments. Some cool instrumentals. I believe it is EOC. Is it EOC I'm thinking of?
EOC, that might have been an instrumental. It was either that one or it was Oligocene.
Yeah, it was one of those two. And it's not long, but it's a nice, just is there and it's happening. And you're experiencing it. Just the album happening. And I don't think the album falls flat for me at all, especially at the end where Holocene revisits, the lyrical themes of Triassic. I haven't really dug into what the lyrics mean, what they were going for lyrically, but the concept and the music is there.
Something I read about this album is, it looks like members of the band are saying that this Phanerozoic is a little bit more experimental than the last album was. A few different directions for this album. Do you think that's accurate?
A little bit. So the last album, it was probably a little more mellow, It kind of reminded me a little bit of Pelagial, a little bit. This one, I can see where it's a little more experimental, but I think it's that whole, for me, the overarching post-rock, post-metal feel, if you will, is there on all of these albums. Like I said, it's very, very sludgy.
I hear that.
You can definitely hear, it's kind of like Haken. I'm going to jump back to Haken. You can definitely hear the evolution of the album. This band is the same way, where the last album sounded like Pelagial and this album. And actually, interestingly enough, as we're looking at this, do you know who produced this album?
I did see that. It was same producer as an album we visited earlier this year. It was produced by Jens Bogren.
Guy can mix. But it was great to get this album. You know, it's crazy. Bands like this, for me, they always seem to end up, I come across them and I hear an album and I'm like, cool, I really like this album. And then they kind of go to the wayside. And then they put out an album like this. And then it just, for me, it kind of puts them, it shoots them up toward the top of some of my favorite music out there. This is one of those things, like, I have the Haken Virus album. I actually picked this one up for I think $15 online on vinyl. And I throw it on all the time. It's just one of those, this will be timeless. In 10 years, when we look back and we look at what was the best of the 2020s, for me, this is going to be up there.
Yeah, I like a lot of the ideas that are on this one. It's interesting for me because, a lot of this is still fairly new to me too. So it's nice to experience something with some ambience and then some heavy moments thrown in there too with a band like The Ocean.
Well, like I've said before, I'm looking for music that puts me in an environment, in a feeling, that ambient sound. They've done this with this album. It's a great listen. I mean, I would highly suggest you at least go back and listen to their last 2 releases. Part 1 of this and then Pelagial. Because I actually saw them at Summer Slaughter the year that Pelagial came out. And they killed it on stage. That's it, guys. See you next year.
All right, that's the end of 2020. Goodbye. Oh, so that's our thoughts on The Ocean's 8th album, Phanerozoic 2, Mesozoic / Cenozoic. That's a mouthful right there. Let us know what you guys think in the comments section below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more album reviews just like this one. We're getting close to the end of the year. Top 10 albums of the year from each of us are next. We'll have those out just before New Year's Eve.
Wow.
We'll see you guys then.